Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's the radio voice of the Tampa Bay Rays and a Chicagoland native. Please welcome Dave Wills to the program. Dave, it's great to have you on. How are you?
John, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
How's it feel to call playoff baseball?
It never gets old. As a matter of fact, it gets very, very disappointing when you've done it for a few years in a row now, like we have. This will be our third straight season. And like I told Andy back in 2008, my only little taste of it was when I was doing pregame and postgame with the White Sox, and we made it in 2000. Unfortunately, got swept by the Seattle Mariners 2 games on the south side, and then the one and only game we played in Seattle. But then the very next year, 2001, we didn't go. It was very, very disappointing, and it was kind of tough to watch some of the other teams that you thought you might have been as good as, or maybe even better than, and not make it to the postseason. And then I didn't go again until 2008 when I was with the Tampa Bay Rays, and had a nice run there, made it all the way to the World Series, and then in 9 another year off, and you don't know what to do with the extra time. So it's the good news is I know what I'm going to be doing here for the next 4 or 5 days. The bad news is that they told my wife our vacation plans or whatever we have planned for the off season are put on hold right now.
Did you have any plans? Did you know, like, okay, the Rays are making the playoffs. I got to make sure I clear up my schedule for this week or two?
No plan. Going back to the beginning of the year, I told my wife that I feel we're going to probably do as much postseason as we did a year before, which made it all the way to the World Series. I thought that this team had a chance to be really good and maybe even better when some of the young players started infiltrating the roster, which it has happened. And she knew not to make any October plans. So we've already kind of penciled in a couple of things for early November, but right now nothing is on the agenda except baseball for the month of October.
Dave, how'd this team win 100 games?
Well, I think what's the old saying, and I always mess it up. It's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I really think that's the case. I mean, if you start looking around, and yes, we do have some very, very good players. We have a 100 RBI guy in Austin Meadows, a 99 RBI guy in Brandon Lau. We've got maybe a future Hall of Famer in Nelson Cruz that we picked up, maybe a future Hall of Famer in Wander Franco. Even though the poor kid's only been around for about 70 games. And then you've got some very good players like Joey Wendell and Randy Rosarena. Kevin Kiermaier can go catch you with the best of them. Mike Zunino hit over 30 homers. So I guess as I'm saying all that, I guess you start to add up why this team won 100 games. And then on the pitching side, you go back to June 15th in a ball game on the south side of Chicago, and Tyler Glasnow leaves early. And at that particular time, I don't think anybody within the organization would have been able to say, all right, he's not going to pitch for the rest of the year, and yet you're going to win 100. But somehow, some way, they maneuvered their way through it. I think at the end of the day, close to 40 pitchers threw a baseball for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think 23 different guys had wins, 14 different guys had saves. It speaks to the depth of the team, the 26 players that are on the active roster, but it also speaks to the depth of the organization, what we have in Durham, what we had down in Montgomery. When you think that Shane Baz started the season in Montgomery is going to be pitching in Game 2 of the American League Division Series. So when you look at the Rays organization, every team made it to the postseason. I think they won over 450 games or something like that from top to bottom. It's a very, very thick organization. And going back to the middle part of the year when I was wondering if we were going to make any trades or move some people, I had said, well, our window is only going to be open for a short period of time. They felt, and they probably were true, that our window was not open yet. But obviously, we've cracked it open a bit, bringing guys like Baz and Wander up and so on. But I think when you start to add it up, this team just had a will to win, found different ways to win. And at the end of the day, in the American League East, where 3 other teams won over 90 games, they won 100. I think that speaks volume about how good the Tampa Bay Rays really are.
What's their main driver for success?
Being able to adapt to the situation. Obviously, we were a pitching and defense first organization. We have been since 2008. Our thought process going back to Andrew Friedman when he was the general manager was that we are probably not going to be able to outslug the Red Sox and the Yankees, and for that matter, as the years went on, the Orioles and even the Blue Jays. But we can prevent runs with the best of them. That's what we started to do. We prevented runs by putting together a real good pitching staff and also playing very, very elite defense. And I think we did that for a long, long time, even for a stretch into last year. When you think about the big three that we had, Blake Snell, Charlie Morton, and Tyler Glasnow at the front end of the rotation. And then at the back end of the rotation, or back end of the bullpen, you had arguably one of the best relievers nobody heard of in Nick Anderson, who might have been one of the best relievers, period. You also had Diego Castillo do some nice things. Pete Fairbanks was really good. And, and then even Ryan Thompson, who was a rookie last year, did some really, really nice things. So we played elite defense. We pitched it well. And unfortunately, we just didn't hit enough when we played the Dodgers in the World Series. So that was the formula we brought in to 2021. And I think around June 15th, when Tyler Glasnow went down, I think our thought process was, you know what, we're going to have a tough time beating teams 3-1 and 4-2 now. We're going to probably have to figure out ways to beat teams 5-3 and 6-4. And we went out and picked up Nelson Cruz. We brought up Wander Franco. And when those two guys are in the lineup, this lineup averages over 6 runs a ball game. And, I was listening to a couple of people talk yesterday, and, and again, reputation is a big, big part of it. But they were talking about the vaunted Yankee offense and how did the Red Sox shut down the vaunted Yankee offense? The Rays scored over 100 more runs than the New York Yankees. We don't get the publicity that those teams do. But, again, when you look at Nelson Cruz and Wander Franco, when they were in the same lineup, we were averaging almost 6.5 runs a ball game. You're going to win a lot of baseball games when your team scores that much.
It's funny, too. I talked to you the day before the trade deadline, the last time we caught up, and you told me the Rays are going to be looking for an impact bat, and they ended up getting Nelson Cruz. How important was that move, and what's been your evaluation of him?
You know what? I'd have to put my glasses on and look at his stats right now in front of me, but, he's been an incredible presence. I think he hit only about 230 with us, with about 13 home runs and 38 runs batted in. But his presence in the lineup, I think, allowed Brandon Lau to see different pitches and allowed Brandon to relax. The next thing you know, he took off and hit almost 40 homers and 100 runs batted in. He had an incredible second half. I think it allowed Randy Arozarena to relax a little bit. And I think it lengthened out our lineup. So instead of Randy having to bat 4th or 5th and maybe feel like he had to be a big run producer, a lot of times we moved Randy down to the 6th or 7th spot. And I think it allowed him to relax. Same thing with Austin Meadows, who moved around a little bit in the lineup. And then Wander Franco, obviously coming up. And I think Wander right now is probably a top 20 player, if not even higher than that in Major League Baseball. That's how good this kid is now. And I'm just kind of anxious to see if he doesn't get hurt, how good he's going to be going down the line. But, and Nelson brought a presence with him at the plate and into the clubhouse. And I think one of the things we saw a couple of different times was there was a moment early on, right in Cleveland when we picked them up, where Randy Arozarena and Nelson Cruz were sitting next to each other on the bench. And one of the coaches said that they were locked in conversation for about 4 innings. And it wasn't one of those moments where, the youngster was looking at other things or looking out to the crowd or reading his, Instagram. He was locked in to what Nelson Cruz was saying. So Nelson's been a big, big part of the Rays' success here in the second half.
Dave Wells here on Sports Talk Chicago. Dave, how do you think the Rays fare in the division series here?
Well, everybody's been asking me, going into the Red Sox-Yankee game, who do you want? Who do you want? I know that, we spent a lot of time here the last few weeks of the regular season trying to figure who would be a better matchup. And I think at the end of the day, we all figured that any of the 5 teams or 6 teams that are going to make it to the postseason, 5 teams are going to be teams that probably out of the American League could go all the way. The Red Sox present some problems. We have had some issues, even with the acquisition of Nelson Cruz and Wander Franco, with some left-handed pitching. Now, our winning percentage is still in the mid-50s, but it's like 65, 66% when we play against right-handed pitching. But Wander's going to have to be a big, big part of our offense. We're going to need to get Randy Arozarena and a couple of other right-handed hitters that are really going, Yandy Diaz, in addition to Nelson Cruz, against these lefties between Eduardo Rodriguez and Chris Sale that we're going to see with the Red Sox. And then we've had trouble with Pivetta. We've had trouble with the Evaldi a couple of different times this year. So we're going to have our hands full. I think we can handle them offensively. I think our pitching staff has done a really, really good job of holding him down. We got swept by them in the first week of the season in Boston and lost the first game, I think it was, at Tropicana Field when we played them back in the early part of the season. And then I think I saw a note that we won 11 of the last 15 matchups against them here during the regular season. I might be off on my numbers a little bit, but I'm going by memory, if memory serves. So they're going to present their problems. But, again, I think we went through a nice little dress rehearsal here over the last week by going on the road prior to the season ending, playing 3 hard-fought games in Houston in front of over 30,000 fans each game there, and then going to the Bronx and taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees and playing in front of over 40,000 fans on a nightly basis in that particular ballpark. So I think our guys are ready. The Trop is ready, and really looking forward to finally figure out a way to beat the Red Sox again after we beat them in 08, but they were able to get us in 13.
Are you concerned about the starting pitching lasting in a 5-game or 7-game series in this postseason?
I'm not too concerned about our starting pitching. I'm more concerned right now about the back end of our bullpen. I asked Kevin Cash that question about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago about our pitching, and he said, outside of Shane McClanahan and Shane Baz and probably Drew Rasmussen, we're going to get very, very creative. So there could be some moments where we're going to back up maybe a Shane Baz and get him 4 or 5 innings, and then bring in Luis Patino, who can throw 98, 99, and kind of keep that going. I haven't seen our roster yet. I would imagine that our roster is going to be held up until the very, very last moment they can submit it. I know how we operate. So, there could be some Michael Wacha signings. He was very intriguing the last handful of starts, and also the couple of times we brought him in at the middle of games where, again, just empty out what you got. Don't try and pace yourself at 94, 95. He would show up with 96, 97 with a real good changeup and do some damage. But I'm a little worried about the back end of our bullpen right now. I'm not sure Nick Anderson's going to be available. He's been battling an elbow problem all year long. And when we did get him back, his velo was just down. Instead of being 95, 96, it was 93. And it didn't quite have the same run at the top of the zone that he had that made him an elite reliever. Pete Fairbanks has had some bumps in the road here over the last couple of months, dealing with some shoulder problems. Again, Andrew Kittredge has been absolutely outstanding, but all right, we used him an awful lot. And you start to wonder, all right, this is going to be his first foray where he's going to be the guy out of the bullpen. And how is he going to do? Is the slider starting to flatten out? Same thing with Colin McHugh. So last year, I felt really, really good going into the postseason about our final 4 guys. This year, there's been some bumps here as we're trying to bring this plane into the World Series title. And maybe, again, once the lights turn on for the postseason, these guys get some additional energy. But we had some problems holding leads in the first part of the season for about the first 2 or 3 weeks. We didn't have any problem for the rest of the season until about the last month. This month of September has been a little bit bumpy at times. And that's where our offense is. Instead of maybe trying to win a game 2-1, like I said, we're going to have to try and win the games 5-2 or 5-3.
If the Rays end up winning, Dave, how far do you see them going?
I can see us going all the way to the end. I really could. I think with the days off mixed in, I think that's what really cost us last year. I think the Dodgers, at the end of the day, were a better team. I'm never going to sit here and say they weren't, but I think at the end of the day, because there weren't any days off in the ALDS, we went to that Nick Anderson move in Game 5, and started Tyler Glasnow. Then went to Nick early, asked him to go multiple innings, and I just don't know if he ever recovered from that. He started to not have any swing and miss in the Houston series, and then he really didn't have the swing and the miss at all in the Dodgers series. But again, I think our depth with some days off is going to come through. I feel like we are maybe not as good on the pitching side, but I think we're much, much better on the offensive side than we were a year ago. And I think that again, when you start to look at some of the other teams around Major League Baseball, and you combine the fact that we play still a very, very good defense, I think we have a chance to go all the way. Just a lot of things have to fall your way too. And when you get moments to take advantage of them, you got to take advantage of them. I know last year, especially in the World Series, but even throughout most of the playoffs, we were not very good with runners in scoring position. We were Randy Arozarena and then RISP, leaving runners in scoring position a lot. We need to come through. When those opportunities arise, I think we need to take a lot more advantage of them this year than we did last year.
What do you think happens if they meet the White Sox? How do you envision a series like that going?
You know what? I think our offense can match up a little bit better with the White Sox than it did maybe back in early June. We did not have Wander. We did not have Nelson Cruz. Obviously, you look at some of their power pitchers. Carlos Rondon, if he's healthy, can really present a lot of problems with us because he is a very, very good pitcher and he's left-handed. We've always had trouble with Lance Lynn, although I think we did get him a little bit last time. And same thing with Lucas Giolito. So, they're a very, very good team. Last time we saw them at Tropicana Field, we were able to win that series, but a big part of it was because after Nick Anderson kind of took over the first game of that series, he had to miss the next couple. And they're a very, very good baseball team on the South Side. I have some questions too about some of their bullpen guys as to how they're going to react in the postseason. And you would have thought I would have thought anyway that after picking up Craig Kimbrell, that bullpen would have been totally shut down for the last several weeks of the season, but obviously they had a few bumps trying to get the ball to Hendricks at times. So they're a good team. They're going to have their hands full though with the Houston Astros because I personally think that when you look at the Astros lineup from 1 to 7, when they're all in there, it's about as thick of a lineup as you're going to run into. And obviously their pitching can be pretty darn good too. Now their bullpen I think is a little sketchy at times, especially with right now Ryan Presley's been battling a little bit of a sore knee at the back end of it. But again, you sneak one out in Houston, you got a chance to have a little fun there in that series.
How epic would a Rays Astros rematch be for this year?
Like I said, you be careful what you wish for. Right? Everybody was asking me who I want, the Yankees, the Red Sox. We'd love to. We've done our thing with the Astros. They beat us in 19 in a 5-game series. We were able to beat them last year in a 7-game series in San Diego. I'd be ready for some new blood, but at the end of the day, again, they're a good team. We had some fun with them this year, both at our place and at their place just recently. So, Dusty's a guy that likes the spotlight. Our guy Kevin's a little more likes to be in the background. But again, hey, if we beat the Red Sox, I don't care who we play in the American League Championship Series, as long as we again get another chance for a ring, and this time we get the big one instead of the bridesmaid ring again.
Who do the Rays face in the World Series if they make it?
Again, watching tonight's game is going to be kind of interesting because the Dodgers are a very, very good team, but I haven't really been able to. I've watched a number of San Francisco Giant games at the end, like the last 2 or 3 innings when I get back from a game and flip through the channels and put on some of the games on my baseball package here. But they're very good. I think from a fan standpoint here at Tropicana Field and in St. Petersburg and Tampa, some people are pointing to the Milwaukee Brewers. They want to see Willy Adames again. They loved Willy Adames, and you look at that situation too. When you think about the family tree right now with the Rays, it's loaded with ex-Rays. You've got Andrew Friedman, the guy who started it all out in Los Angeles. You've got our guy Eric Neander now running the Rays. Hein Bloom, he's running the Boston Red Sox. James Click is with the Houston Astros, and then Matt Arnold's the vice president and general manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. So I think from a standpoint of what Dave Wills would like, I think I'd kind of enjoy maybe a nice little trip to Milwaukee and mix in a trip maybe to Kenosha for a brat stop or whatever, and be able to kind of enjoy a little Midwest fall while trying to win a World Series.
How'd you celebrate? How would you celebrate if they won it all?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if we take a page out of the Buccaneers book and the Lightning book and have a boat parade like they've had the last couple of off seasons, where those look to be just absolute great times. And people are out there on the riverfront and in downtown Tampa having a blast. We've got a 2-city kind of tale. We also operate full time out of St. Petersburg. So do we start the party in St. Pete and then go across the bay and go to Tampa? I don't know how we plan on it, but it'd be a nice problem to have. But obviously there'd be a few beverages involved and some of my favorite stops and hangouts here where I live in North Tampa up in Lutz. They've all been big Rays fans, and they've all really, really been behind us and behind me as far as listening to games and giving us some pep talks when we need it. Thankfully, when you win 100 games, you don't need that many of them. But I think I'd be more celebrating for the fans. I know that Rays fans take a lot of unfair hits because of the fact that attendance is so low at Tropicana Field. But as I probably said on this program many, many times, there are more Rays fans than people want to believe outside of the cities of Tampa, St. Pete, and Clearwater. I mean, our TV numbers again were really, really good. Our radio numbers have been fantastic again this year. Our social media hits are top and near the top in baseball. So there's a lot of good things going on outside of not being able to get fannies more consistently in the seats at Tropicana Field. But they've opened up the upper deck for this postseason. I'm expecting on the other side of 30,000 for at least the first 2 games against the Boston Red Sox, and a majority of the fans will be Rays fans, which is also good. So I'm hoping that these guys get a chance to celebrate because they're calling this area Tampa Bay. We have the Super Bowl champs, the Stanley Cup champs, and the American League champs. I'm hoping that we can add World Series champs to that list come in a few weeks.
Dave Wills, still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Dave, 2 more questions before we finish up. First off, the most intense playoff baseball moment you've been a part of is what?
Well, I probably have to call 2 of them. Obviously, when your first World Series is first chance to go to the World Series is 2008. We go to Game 7 against the Boston Red Sox. They had just did the same thing the year before to the Cleveland Indians, where I think they had fallen behind 3-1, won Game 5, won Game 6, and then won Game 7 to go on to the World Series. We had a 7-0 lead in Game 5 at Fenway Park in the 7th inning and lost that game. It went from a 3-1 lead, or actually the champagne was on ice, to now leading the series 3-2. Come back to Tropicana Field for game 6 and kind of are flat and beat up a little bit, lose that game. And now we go into a game 7 and, here we are. It's a winner take all kind of game. And I remember, all right, now we get to the 9th inning and we're leading 3-1. And I'm calling the final play on radio as far as, all right, this is it. We win it. We go to the World Series. And I can just remember, again, being all tensed up and all, flared up and ready to go. And for a game 7, that's about as tense as you're ever going to find in any sport. And, I tried to tell my wife beforehand that this is fun. This is what it's all about. And then you actually get involved in it. And you realize that you could have slept for about 10 days after it was all done. But calling the final play of the ALCS in 2008 against the Red Sox was probably the most tense. And then the craziest, obviously, was last year in game 4. Andy was doing the play-by-play on that particular play. I was offering the color. But, again, the ball is kicked out to right center field. Chris Taylor kicks it around. Kiermaier scores the tying run. Then you've got Randy Arozarena coming around. And I remember standing up in the booth and being the third base coach and waving him home. And then he falls down and I'm like, ah! And then he gets back up and he scores. And I just, pumping the fist, going nuts. And that was probably the most animated I've ever been, probably, for a call in my time as a broadcaster.
And Dave, before we finish up today, last question: how do you tie your shoes?
I'm a bunny ears guy. I've always been a bunny ears guy. I could not figure it out as a young kid on how to tie the shoes with the one loop and then wrap it around and bring it through. I don't know. I guess I wasn't coordinated enough. So then I had an aunt who showed me how to do the bunny ears, and I've been a bunny ears guy ever since. Even at age 57 now, where I still try to maybe do it the way that, I don't know, maybe is it a majority? 90% of the people do it. I still have a tough time doing it. So bunny ears it is. It's quick, it's clean, and it does the job.
2 bunny ears guys right here on Sports Talk Chicago. Dave, thank you so much for joining me. Always appreciate it. Best wishes for the playoffs, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon. Thank you so much.
I hope I'm busy through October and we get to do this again. Sure. Thanks.